so much for joining us today on Feelin Good, sponsored by Warren County Community Services. I'm your host, Shelly Abrams, and I am delighted to introduce to you today Paula Smith, who is the Manager of Communications for the Council on Aging here in Southwest Ohio. And I am just meeting Paula for the first time, and it's so great to meet you, and thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for having me here.
Delighted. Well, we are focused on a myriad of topics today. But before we get started talking about those different topics, I'd like to know a little bit more about you, your background, and how you became affiliated with Council on Aging.
Sure. So as we were just chatting beforehand, I am a lifelong Warren County resident. I live in Morrow, and I joined Council on Aging in 2007. So I've been there for about 12 years now. Mm-hmm. I've worked in the communications department there and recently became the manager of communications a couple of years ago. And I have a background in public relations and journalism. And before I worked at Council on Aging, I worked for the county health department. So I have an interest in working for organizations that serve the community, and Council on Aging certainly is a service provider in the community.
Very good, very good. Well, as I mentioned to our audience, we are sponsored by Warren County Community Services, and I know that Council on Aging has a very important relationship with Warren County Community Services. Could you kind of explain that relationship?
Sure. So Council on Aging is designated by the state of Ohio as the area agency on aging for Southwest Ohio. So we serve not only Warren County, but also Butler, Claremont, Clinton, and Hamilton counties. And we're charged with developing and implementing programs that will serve older adults, people with disabilities, and caregivers within our service area. And through that role, we also administer several publicly funded programs for older adults and caregivers. And we actually are not a direct service provider. So while we administer the programs, we contract with organizations in the community to deliver the services to the people that we serve. And that's our relationship with Warren County Community Services. In Warren County, we have a contract with the county commissioners to administer the Elderly Services Program, which is funded by the county's senior services tax levy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then through that tax levy, we contract with businesses and organizations in the community who then go out and provide the services to the seniors who are enrolled in that program. And Warren County Community Services has a contract with us to provide the initial screening for that program, the enrollment, and then the ongoing care management for the clients who are enrolled in that program. And there are about 2,500 clients, 2,500 seniors who are served by that program every year.
Okay, very good. Well, we've talked about the topic of the baby boomer generation and how it's changing the demographic outlook here in Warren County, mm-hmm. as well as across the U.S. and across the globe, actually. Mm-hmm. So how do you see those changes impacting your services? And since you're a lifelong resident, as we were talking, of Warren County, we were talking about all those changes. Mm-hmm. So give us kind of your impressions, your perspective.
Sure. The population is aging, mostly driven by the baby boomers. And it's happening globally, all across the nation, and certainly here in Ohio. Ohio actually has the 6th largest older adult population in the country, which surprises a lot of people. Uh-huh. I don't think we think of ourselves as a very big state, but we are. We have the 6th largest older adult population. And next year, nearly 1/4 of Ohioans will be age 60 or older. So next year, so that's a month away.
Right.
Yeah, 1/4 of Ohioans will be age 60 or older. And we're seeing that in Warren County also. Warren County is a bit younger than some of the other counties, but we are still aging. Next year, in 2020, we'll have about 1 in 5 county residents who are age 60 or older, but by 2030, we'll be at that 25% mark. So 1 in 4 residents will be age 60 or older. So there is a really big, remarkable shift. And with that will come increased demand for services such as the ones that Council on Aging offers. The Warren County Elderly Services Program will certainly see a demand for care needs. And the other big shift that's happening is family caregivers are being asked and required to provide more care to their loved ones. because the population is aging so fastly, and because there is a nationwide shortage of qualified home health aides. Our economy is doing really well. So people who traditionally might have been serving as a home health aide, they have other opportunities for work, and they're moving out of that field and into those other opportunities. So we really are experiencing a shortage of home health aides who are available to provide the services. So when that happens, the burden does shift to family members to provide care.
Well, and this month, especially, we're talking about the caregivers, aren't we? I mean, this is highlighting some of the different aspects of being a caregiver. So maybe we'll delve into that a little bit, but then I'd like to hear about some of the other programs as well.
Sure. So November is National Family Caregiver Awareness Month, and it's a time where we can recognize all the family members who are out there caring for an older loved one. And there are a lot of them. Over 40 million Americans provide care for an older loved one. And that's just not people who are raising children, that's people who are focused on providing care for an older loved one. And what's really interesting is that the type of care those family caregivers have had to provide over the years has really become more complex and more involved. Whereas before, care might have just been helping to give a bath or going to the grocery store, those types of things, maybe some housekeeping help. Now family caregivers are being asked to administer medications, to do wound care, to even do home dialysis for their loved ones. And our healthcare and our long-term care system isn't set up so that those caregivers get the training that they need in order to provide those services. And caregiving comes with a lot of ups and downs. It could be very rewarding to provide care for a loved one. At the same time, it can be very stressful and an emotional roller coaster. And there's all sorts of data out there that tells us that when people have to serve as a caregiver, that their own health, both physical and emotional, and even their own financial health and well-being, suffers as a result of their caregiving responsibilities. So, I mean, essentially, family caregivers are the backbone of the long-term care system in this country. And without the work that family caregivers are doing, many people would have no choice but to move into nursing homes and get care in nursing homes. So the work that they're doing is very important, and we want to try to support that in any way that we can. One thing that we have noticed recently, and that's been a topic of discussion all this year, is the impact of caregiving on our workforce. Just late last year, the Harvard Business Review published a study that focused on the impact of caregiving on workers, and then therefore the impact on employers and businesses. And so we wanted to know more about that in our service area. So we began doing some research, and we developed a survey that we deploy through area employers to find out how caregiving is impacting their employees. And the survey really serves two purposes. It helps us as Council on Aging, as the Area Agency on Aging, it helps us understand what the needs of our local caregivers are. And then it can help us determine what changes or what changes we need to make to the programs that we offer so we can better meet the needs of our working caregivers. And then it also helps employers understand how this is impacting their workforce. There is a big disconnect, I think, between how employers see caregiving impacting their workers versus how employees feel that caregiving impacts them when they're at work. So we deployed this survey. We sent this survey out through a number of employers, and we've gotten over or nearly 1,000 responses so far. And what the survey has told us is that about half of people who completed the survey, about 49%, are currently serving as a caregiver while trying to work. And those numbers were really informative, really telling for us. So we had about half, 51%, who said, no, I'm not a caregiver now. But of that group, 81% said, I will be sometime in the future. So it's coming. They know it's coming. And what we learned is that a good chunk of these folks who are caregiving while they're trying to work are dealing with all sorts of issues. They may have had to cut back their hours. They may have had to take vacation or sick time to provide care. They worry about their loved ones while they're at work. They've passed up special projects they might wanted to have taken on. They've passed up promotions. Or in many cases, they leave their jobs altogether, which impacts their financial future.
Right.
So it kind of creates a ripple effect. And it's kind of startling to see that information in front of us. And to know that the population is growing so fast and there's a workforce shortage. So what can we do about that? We want to make sure that employers are aware and that employees and employers are aware that Council on Aging is out there as a resource to be able to provide support.
So what when you received this information from the survey, how long does it take for the Council on Aging then to analyze, okay, what do we need to do to address the situation? I mean, is it will it take you a whole year to implement, or is it something that's more short term than that?
I'd say both. There's actually something we can do right away. When a company participates in our survey, after the survey closes, we give them a report which shows how employees responded. The responses are anonymous, so no employee data is given, but it's specific to the company. So we give them a report so they understand how caregiving is impacting their workforce. And then usually, once an employer reviews that information, there's kind of an aha moment. And then they reach out to us and they ask us to come in and speak to their employees about resources that are available for caregivers. So we'll come in and we'll do a lunch and learn, or we will attend a health and wellness fair. Many employers offer health and wellness fairs or benefits fairs for their employees. So we'll come in and participate in that respect as well. And then as we continue to get more data, I think we'll be looking at that data from the long-term perspective and trying to decide what we need to do or how we might adapt to better meet the needs of caregivers.
Very good. Well, and the number of employers is increasing ever more, quickly here in Warren County. Now, not every county has that same kind of situation, but I know here in Warren County, it just seems like you see new companies moving to the area every day almost.
Or growth in existing companies.
Right.
Yep, it's booming.
And so I'm sure that might be something that the Human Resources Department possibly did not necessarily anticipate. That would be, a situation that they would need to encounter until all of a sudden they see the results of a survey like this.
That's usually who we interact with is the Human Resources Department. And even before we did the survey, the last couple of years, we have a speakers bureau at Council on Aging where people can call us and request a speaker to come out and talk about our services. And over the last couple of years, we have had a big increase in phone calls from employers, usually from HR departments, where they say, we've got more and more employees coming to us because they need help caring for their parents. And we don't know what resources are out there. So they would contact us and we would come in and offer those presentations and talk to employees about, what resources were available. And I think that's only going to continue to increase.
Well, if anyone in our audience that listens to the program has that type of concern or questions, what would be the contact information, the best thing for them to do?
So if there's an organization out there that's interested in participating in the survey or wants information about caregiving resources for their employees, they can contact Council on Aging. Our phone number is 513-721-1025.
Okay, very good. And your office is actually located?
Our office is located in Springdale. We have our main office is in Springdale, and we also have a small resource office in Wilmington and Clinton County as well.
Okay, all right, very good. Well, we've talked about caregiving, and let's talk about some of the other areas that Council on Aging addresses in addition to the caregiving side.
Sure. So we also administer several in-home care programs for older adults and people with disabilities. So these programs are designed to help individuals get care in their homes instead of go to a nursing home. So they typically help someone who would normally meet a nursing home level of care, but they could get that care safely at home. And it has two benefits. one, it's where most people want to be. Most people want to stay in their homes as long as possible. And two, in-home care services are much less costly than nursing home care. And the programs that we administer are funded by tax dollars. So when we can help an older adult or someone with disabilities stay in their homes, that not only is compassionate, but it's cost effective because we're making the best use of the tax dollars by helping someone stay in their homes. And one of the most important programs that I think people who watch this program should be aware of is the Warren County Elderly Services Program. That is funded by a tax levy here in Warren County. So voters in Warren County, property owners in Warren County, it's something that they're paying for. And it's doing a lot of good in the county. I mentioned earlier that there's 2,500 people enrolled in that program, and those folks are getting help with housekeeping, personal care. They're getting Meals on Wheels. They're getting transportation to doctor's appointments. And this program also supports those working caregivers.
All right, very good.
So while a son or daughter is at work, they know that there's an aide coming to help mom, or there's a meal being delivered and someone's going to see their parent that day. So it's a great, it serves, it's peace of mind for those family caregivers. And the program, it's helping spouses stay together in the community. And it's just, it helps make the county a great place to live and a great place to age.
So anytime we see a tax renewal, it's usually a renewal, but I think people realize that they're either in the midst of those kinds of situations, or they're going to be anticipating themselves being in that situation. So I think Warren County has usually been pretty supportive.
Very supportive. I believe the last levy was on the ballot in Warren County in 2016, and it received over 70% approval. So there is strong community support for it. It is a community program. It's not just a program for seniors. It's a program for all families in Warren County who have aging loved ones.
Very good, very good. Well, what about transportation? Do you help at all? I'm very cognizant of transportation challenges, oftentimes that folks have, because just in different groups I belong to, I'll hear people talk about, well, I'd like to get to this point, get to work, get to the doctor, so on and so forth. And I know that there are several services offered, but I'm also thinking that that's probably an area that will need to grow as well.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest decisions that a person makes in their life is when to stop driving.
Right.
And that has a huge impact on independence, especially, depending on where the person lives. If they live in an urban area, they might have more options, but if they live in a rural area, hanging up the keys for the last time is a really serious decision and has lots of implications. So there are transportation options available. You have to be enrolled in one of the programs in order to qualify for and receive the transportation service. And because the service is in such high demand, there are limitations to how much we can provide. It's a costly service, so people should not have the expectation, I think, when they enroll in a program and get transportation, that it's going to meet all their transportation needs, that it's going to take them to the doctor, to the grocery store, to the hair salon, those types of things. It's there to serve it does serve a medical and a non-medical need, but because of the cost and the amount of services that need to be provided, there are limitations to it. But there's lots of other options that people are taking advantage of as well. People use Uber, people use Lyft. There are services
which didn't really exist until just the last few years.
Exactly. And there are services. One service I heard of recently is called Go Grandparent.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's a ride sharing service for older adults, and family members can schedule services. But a lot of times when you move into a continuing care retirement community, if you make that decision, there might be transportation services available there.
Right.
And I know Warren County does have a transportation service for older adults. We also have the Warren County Veterans Service Commission, and they provide transportation. I see their vans around all the time in the county.
Well, I know different times people will say, well, I don't drive at night. You know, I can't drive at night, or I'm a little leery of driving at night. So that, do these transportation services offer nighttime, you know, kinds of trips, or is it just like a during the day?
Not typically. Well, the services through the transportation services provided through Council on Aging programs would primarily be a daytime service.
Okay.
However, you know, Uber, Lyft, those other types of services, those private pay services, might have more flexibility for evening or weekend trips.
Okay. Okay. So, do you see a difference when you visit different counties in this region in terms of needs? I mean, is Warren County, because it's such a growing county, do you see greater need, or do you see greater numbers in Warren County than you do in other counties, or is everybody kind of in the same situation with trying to keep up?
I think it's a pretty even playing field. Okay. I would say that the number of people served in each county is proportionate to the total population. Okay. So, you know, in Hamilton County, the Elderly Services Program there serves many more people because there are many, because the population is larger. Right. So I'd say it's proportionate. In counties like Warren County and Clinton County, where we certainly still have more rural areas, service delivery can sometimes be a problem just because of the aid shortage and being able to get service to those individuals. But we work really hard with the provider network to keep those services going. We add new providers when we need to make sure that we can keep up with the demand. And one of the things that we've done in order to be able to serve people better and to kind of alleviate the impact of the home health aid shortage is we've added an option in the Elderly Services Program where clients can hire their own caregiver. Oh. It's called, it has a really unfriendly name. It's called Consumer Directed Care. So consumer is the client, the individual enrolled in the program, and through that option, they can hire their own caregiver. So they may know their neighbor, or they may have a friend who they trust and can provide their care through the program. They can get all the paperwork set up, and that individual could provide their care and get paid through the program to do so. So that's helping a lot. And then we're trying to take advantage of those network of people who are providing care through the consumer directed care option. You know, they might be providing, you might have a caregiver who's providing care for their neighbor through the program, and maybe that individual would want to take on one or two other clients. You know, we have those discussions as well to try to be able to serve as many people as we can with what we have available.
But again, that would be something, if anyone was considering that option, that would be something they'd go through Council on Aging first to get the paperwork and so on?
In Warren County, if you're enrolled in the Warren County Elderly Services Program, you would talk to your care manager, and your care manager would help you with the paperwork, because essentially the client becomes the employer.
Alrighty.
And they have to keep track of their employees, their caregivers' time and what they do. And all that is arranged through the care manager. The care manager still says, these are the types of services you can get, and this is how many hours of care you can get every week. And that's all monitored, and the caregiver then is paid. The only restrictions with that are that the paid caregiver cannot be a spouse or a power of attorney.
Okay.
So, but children, siblings, friends, neighbors, or, you know, it could be a friend of a family member or a friend of a friend that you know and trust. And we find that people who participate in that service are really satisfied with the level of care that they get. It's someone they know, someone they trust, because that is a barrier for people when they need help. Right. They're reluctant to allow a stranger to come into their home. So that's a concern for people, and this is another way around that too. So there are lots of benefits to the consumer-directed care option. So
I was going to ask you, do you see innovation happening? But I guess that would be a good example.
Absolutely, that is one innovation that's happening. Another innovation that's happening is that we are trying to help people as they are experiencing care transitions. So if you've been in the hospital or a nursing home, and you need to go back home. It's time for you to go back home, but you know you're still weak or you're recovering from whatever reason you're in the hospital, you're going to need a little extra support during that time. We have programs and supports that can help with that transition, provide temporary services right away when you get home from the hospital or the nursing home to kind of buoy you or just support you as you recover and get stronger. And then maybe after a while you need to enroll in a longer term program like the Elderly Services Program, or maybe you've recovered and you no longer need the help, but you've had the benefit of using those services to help you recover at home. And the main benefit of that is that it prevents readmissions to the hospital, because so many of those readmissions occur within 30 days of going home from the hospital.
So in preparation for providing these types of services, what would you recommend students who may be in high school right now that are looking for possible careers in this area? I mean, you came upon it possibly not even realizing much about Council on Aging, did you? I mean, when you made the transition to
working at Council on Aging? Well, as I mentioned, I worked in public health before I came
so you knew.
So I had an awareness, and also at that time, my husband's grandmother was enrolled in one of our programs.
Oh, okay.
And so I understood how that was benefiting her. My husband was actually her primary caregiver, so I saw the benefit to him and to my family, and also to his grandmother and keeping her at home. She was able to stay in her own home until she was 95. So, and I also have my own grandfather, who's 97, also receives services through one of the Elderly Services Programs. So I understand the firsthand benefit. But I think anyone who is interested in working with older adults, who wants to be involved in an organization that provides support to the community as a whole, that it's definitely, we work with, our staff consists of social workers, nurses, but we also have a whole business side. So there are many different opportunities for employment with Council on Aging. We're actually, we're hiring now. There are lots of employment opportunities at Council on Aging, everything from care managers, which would be nurses and social workers, to financial analysts, accountants, those types of things.
Well, very good. Well, the whole area seems to, gerontology and so forth, I mean, it's become such a big part. I know the Scripps Center for Gerontology at Miami, the program that's running right now, we discuss quite a bit about, just how that program is growing on the collegiate level, let alone maybe in a career or technical school level or high school. Students becoming more and more aware of the opportunities that are out there.
Absolutely, and I would say, there is this shortage of home health aides. I think that job, that career, needs to be valued more. Because it's going to be a very important job in the future as the population ages. So I think as a country, just as the healthcare and long-term care system in general, we need to place more value on that role, and it needs to be a higher paid position. And I think that would maybe draw people into the field.
Do you have other services that you'd like to talk about, or future programming that's upcoming?
Well, I will mention, since it is National Family Caregiver Month, we do offer a free caregiver support program for anyone who is in a caregiving role. Maybe you're new to caregiving, or your caregiving roles are changing, or you're just stressed out and you need some help. We do have it's a free support program, and the focus is on the caregiver, not on the care recipient. So we want to make sure that the caregiver is getting the support that they need, that they're connected to the resources that they need, so they can continue to do that really important job of providing care for their loved one. So you can contact us at Council on Aging to inquire about that program and be connected to our caregiver support nurse, who would do a phone consultation or a home visit and try to help caregivers through whatever challenging situation that they're going through.
Okay, very good. And then, and your website, what would the web, email address or?
Sure. So our website is www.helpforseniors.org, and it's the number 4 there in the middle. It's not FOR, so it's helpforseniors.org. And our website has information about all the in-home care programs and services that we offer, our health and wellness programs, our caregiver support program, and there's also an online resource directory and a housing database, so people can search for resources or housing options in their areas.
Great. You're a wealth of information.
Oh, good.
Yes,
Good.
very good. Any other future plans? Do you see Council on Aging adding more programs, or is there ever a chance that you'll be enlarging your, the area that you're traveling in terms of numbers of counties, that kind of thing, or are you pretty well set with the boundaries?
As an area agency on aging, I think our boundaries are set. We're one of 12 in the state, so the state's kind of divided into sections. So we have our service area. I think that there's always an opportunity for programs and services to change or to grow or to adapt. We will be adding a health and wellness program early next year called the Aging Mastery Program, and that focuses on changing the way that younger older adults think about the aging process. So through the Aging Mastery Program, we bring in a series of expert speakers to talk about topics ranging from nutrition to sleep habits to financial issues related to aging, and we kind of try to change the way we think about it. And let people know that their future's kind of in their hands, and give them some tools to do that. So we'll have more information coming soon about that. We are looking for sites who are interested in hosting that program. So if there's a site out there that's interested in bringing that program in to serve their members or residents, you can contact us and we can have those discussions and try to get that set up.
Very good. Very good. Well, interesting. I mean, I could just listen to you go on and on, about this whole area, because it is in the midst of continuing growth, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you're addressing, very important needs, because I think people, like, we talk about, well, we'll know eventually that we'll be there someday, but then sometimes it's quicker, the need is quicker than you anticipated.
Absolutely.
And that's not necessarily, you're not necessarily planning that as far ahead as you probably should.
Right. People definitely do not plan as far ahead as they should. And that's something that we always stress is planning for long-term care needs. And that's why area agencies on aging are here. We're here to help people plan for and understand what their long-term care needs are, and to connect them to what services they might need at the time. So by planning in advance and knowing what resources are out there, you won't be scrambling at the last minute when a crisis occurs, and and you're needing help at 3 o'clock in the morning because mom fell.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you so much. Is there anything that we haven't covered yet that you'd like to cover? Like I say, we could talk on, and I could listen to more and more, because it's so interesting. And I know, having kind of gone through some of the scenarios that you talk about with my own parents at one time, it is, it's a pretty isolating feeling oftentimes when you're the caregiver, or your parents live far away, and they want to stay where, in their home, which is farther away from your home, So trying to manage long distance is another challenge.
Yeah.
So going to the Council on Aging almost in any region then in Ohio would be a go-to for anyone. Right?
Absolutely. And there are area agencies on aging all across the country. We're part of the National Aging Network. There are over 600 across the country. And we were all formed under the umbrella of the Older Americans Act back in 1965. So area agencies on aging are out there, no matter where you live or where your loved one lives, to be your connection to services in that area. And there's a great service called the Elder Care Locator that is done by the National Council on Aging. If you just Google Elder Care Locator, you'll find it. They recently changed their web address, so I'm going to say it and it'll be wrong. I've had it memorized for so long and then they went and changed it on me.
Okay.
But it's called the Elder Care Locator, and if you Google that, you'll find an 800 number you can call, or if you go to their website, you just put in the zip code of where you live or where your loved one lives, and it'll pull up all of the aging resources in that area, including the Area Agency on Aging, so you can connect and talk to someone about your situation.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, that would be a very reassuring and very handy, locator to have.
Absolutely.
To be able to dial up and talk to someone. Then, whether you're on vacation or you're a snowbird or wherever.
Yeah. And I would say too that people should understand that services vary widely across the country, even across the state. I mean, we are very fortunate in Southwest Ohio that we have the senior services tax levies that provide that in-home care for people who can't afford to pay privately, but who also don't qualify for the lower income Medicaid programs. Actually, a couple of years ago, PBS came through Southwest Ohio, and they were working on a documentary called Caring for Mom and Dad. And they came to our region specifically because we had these county senior services levy, and they're very unique. They're not available in other parts of the country. So that's really something for people to consider. If you're thinking of moving to retire somewhere, do your research first. Find out what services are available to you if you might need them, how much they might cost, how you qualify. It might sound nice to move somewhere because of the climate, but what's there waiting for you when you need the help?
So we should be very grateful for the services
I am.
that are provided here.
Yes.
In Southwest Ohio.
Yes, we're very lucky. We have created a community here where we have shown that we value the older adults who live in our communities, and we want them to be able to stay, to be able to continue to live and be productive members of our communities. So
Very
I think
good.
that's great.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for coming and
Thanks,
spending your time this afternoon with
Happy
us.
to.
And we've got your contact information, and we'll put it up on the screen so people can jot it down. And if they need to call or would like to call for a program or speakers bureau, they could contact you as well and request that.
Absolutely. Again, the phone number is 513-721-1025.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Paula.
Thanks.
Have great holidays.
You too.
And we hope that all of you enjoy your holidays as well. And we hope that you're feeling good. Bye for now.